How you doing, YouTube? Matt with Massive Beer Reviews, back with yet another review. A big bourbon barrel-aged Belgian-esque beer that I think I reviewed before. I know I reviewed it before. I don't know if I posted it. If I did, I did. If I didn't, I didn't. If I did, it would be cool to go back and watch that after you watch this one. Just saying. If not, then this is all you get. What are we doing? We are doing Hardywood Park Brewery, their bourbon barrel aged crew, which is a Abbey style quad aged in bourbon whiskey barrels. Now, like I said, I believe I reviewed this before, and I remember it because I was underwhelmed by it. I just got a little bit of barrel, a little bit of whiskey, and a subtly not so fantastically made Belgian off it. Very distinct. Remember that those thought process about the beer. And I like Hardywood. Their single is quite fantastic. Some of their barrel-aged stouts, foolery, stuff like that are amazing. So they make great beers. This one kind of let me down. But it's been a couple years. I got a beer mail the other day from Brian, thank you very much, down Virginia Way, and he ended up sending this to me. So now I get to re-review it or review it for the first time, or at least post it for the first time. Here we go. Hardywood Bourbon Barrel Crew. So part of their barrel series, Abbey style quad aged in bourbon whiskey barrels, Richmond, Virginia, 12% alcohol by volume. Story time. I'll try to rip through it. Hardywood and Bourbon Barrel Aged Crew is brewed in the fashion of Belgian's reverse monastic breweries. Bourbon Barrel Crew displays a rich mahogany hue with a medium body and brilliant clarity after months of barrel aging. The maturity and melding of flavors brought on by the fresh drained bourbon whiskey barrels lends an extraordinary sense of harmony to Bourbon Barrel Aged Crew. Almond, toffee, oaky vanilla gives way of notes of dark cherries and raisins. Subtle hints of plum are greeted by caramel overtones for a smooth, robust, and warming finish. Paired with rich, soft cheeses, gamey meats and savory sauce, cream-based soups, and dark fruit desserts. Done and done. Pour slowly into a stemmed glass. We have a little cognac-y type fatty glass here. I haven't broke this sucker out in a while, so kind of wanted something from it. So let's see what this sucker has. Mosquitoes are coming out. Gotta make this one quick. Anyway, give this a pour, see what she's got. They're talking about having being barrel aged, and then all the sediment drops out and ends up being like a super clear beer. Quads shouldn't be clear. They should be murky. Let's put it that way. It's kind of one of my prerequisites for being a really nice, well-made quad. People are like, how do you define a quad? Well, they have a nice density, a nice murkiness to it. This has a little bit of murk going on. I can see through it. I can glean a little bit of light through it. Nothing too crazy. But it definitely has the color down. Definitely has the head color down, too. Right around khaki in color. So we're off to a good start. Let's see if we can get a nose on her. Yeah, I mean, you're getting those rich, kind of plummy, dark fruitiness. Kind of plummy raisin. The whole gamut, actually, plums to raisin to prunes. How about that? Almost like a little bit of apricot vibes in there too. A little orange marmalade, baby. There's a whole bunch of fruitiness going on in there. Getting that bourbon barrel with the fruits that come out of that barrel with your dark reddish fruits kind of menaging and connecting and mashing up with that kind of Belgian yeastiness does from that rich dark fruitiness you typically get from that. Vanilla out the wazoo. A little bit of soft bourbon, but not all that boozy. A little bit of soft, like, tea tannic lime from it. Like Lipton tea, kind of orange pekoe, black tea mixture kind of thing going on. I assume that's coming from the wood. And, yeah, not overly sweet, but she smells like a bourbon barrel-aged beer, but gently done. Nothing over the top. Let's dive in. Cheers. Yeah, the barrel's really present here. Vanilla out the pooper. Nice, rich, like even almost like a fresh vanilla oakiness on top of a little bit of smoky kind of charriness. Nothing too crazy, nothing too overpowering barrel-wise. It's impactful, but not super, super sharp. That bourbon, the way it's coming off, is definitely kind of those rich kind of cherry notes you typically get from bourbon, or I typically get from bourbon, marrying with a lot of those kind of red fruits that you typically get from a Belgian quad. You're talking about like those raisins and prunes and figs and dates and all that kind of stuff you typically get from there. It's lacking a more, and this is, I mean, it's barrel aged, so sometimes you can kind of forgive this when it comes to barrel aged Belgian style beers. It's lacking a bit of kind of yeasty kind of breadiness on that side of things. it doesn't really, it's not a Belgian killer for me, but the two things really kind of make me think an American brewery makes a Belgian, in that it lacks that kind of bready component to it, especially in your quads, and it lacks that kind of authentic kind of candied sugar. Now those two things are very hard to kind of hold on to and keep in a barrel-aged Belgian-style beer, because you're having that booze, you're having that time, you're having all those, knock those down. So it's not something that's so much of a knock, but just kind of something you can have with these kind of, barrel-aged Belgian beers. But it's nice. It's way better than I remember it being, let's put it that way. A little bit boozy, but I don't mind that. It's 12% barrel-aged beer. It does have that soft little tea tannic vibe thing going on, which is probably the coolest component. I barely even mentioned it. It's probably the coolest component about the whole thing. It's giving me those kind of orange pekoe black tea kind of tannic thing going on, so that's pretty fun. But it's the vanilla that wins the day. It's that little nuanced tea thing that works, and it is a Belgian beer. Or at least, let me rephrase that before I get butchered. It tastes like a Belgian-style quad. It does. Through the American brewery making it, through it sitting in a barrel, it still has that nuance. It still has that flavor of being a Belgian beer. So to keep that in the beer through barrel aging and being that it's brewed by a brewery in Virginia, not too shabby. So I dig it. I like it. I liked it way more now than I remember it. I kind of went into it with a little bit of kind of, biased. I just remember it not blowing me away, and I think it's still not blowing me away, quite a bit better than what I originally thought it would be. So let's talk about it. It's one of the better barrel-aged Belgian-style quads I've had as of late. It would default to that just for the reason I don't do a ton of them, but I have done some, and some of them have been very, very good. So this one kind of falls to that second level, behind your Canes of the world, behind your Block 15s of the world. It's nice, it's tasty, it's just not up there with your barrel amongst stuff like that. Value and availability, I can get this, I believe, at least up by where I used to live. Up there, you're talking about, $15, I think, give or take, for a bottle. It is what it is. Maybe Brian can chime in and let us know what he paid and leave you with, if you like what, we like this. If you like barrel-aged beer, you like Belgian beer, it's done and done. You're going to get that nice rich maltiness. You're going to get that nice kind of Belgian, subtle Belgian vibes in a nice barrel. Who doesn't like that? Haze Bros and Hop Thoughts, that's who. So there you go. Another review in the books. Down there if you want to talk about it. Massive Beers if you want to check me out doing the social media stuff. Beer Massive if you want to check me out doing podcasting stuff. You can go back to my old radio days where I actually interviewed one of the owners of Hardywood Park Brewery and kind of tells their story of where the brewery came from. Pretty cool, actually. So you can go check that out, beermassive.com. And hopefully you guys enjoyed the review. Hopefully enjoying a nice Belgian barrel-aged style, not style, reverse that, Belgian style barrel-aged beer right now. Hopefully see you next time. Cheers.